everyone, I'm so excited about this quiz today. So today we will be doing a quiz on Willy Russell's play Blood Brothers. As always, remember to get a pen and paper to write your answers down, and then please do check your answers at the end. Let's begin. What is the name of Mrs. Johnstone's first child? Question 3. Who is the first person to speak in the play? So at the beginning of the play, who is the first one we hear their voice? Write your answer down. Question 4. For how long did the company send Mr. Lyons out there for? So how long did the company send him out to work? Write your answer down. Question 5. What does Mrs. Johnstone say her husband only has to do to her to get her in the club? Question 6. Who is the first person to visit Mrs. Johnstone after the twins are born? Question 7. What does Mrs. Johnstone tell her other kids has happened to the twin? So when she only brings one twin back, what did she say happened to the other one? Question 8. Who says, all women like to hold babies, don't they? Question 9. How much money does Mrs. Lyons give to Mrs. Johnstone? And this is in reference to the agreement that they had for her to give, for her to give one of her babies, for Mrs. Johnstone to give one of her babies to Mrs. Lyons. So how much money did she give for that transaction? Question 10. What reason does Mrs. Lyons give for firing Mrs. Johnstone? Okay. Let's now check your answers. How well did you do? So question 1, what job does the gynecologist have before he became a gynecologist? And he was a milkman. Question 2, what is the name of Mrs. Johnstone's first child? And that was Darren Wayne. Question 3, who is the first person to speak in the play? And that was Mrs. Johnstone. Question 4. For how long did the company send Mr. Lyons out there for? And that was 9 months. Question 5. What does Mrs. Johnstone say her husband only has to do to her to get her in the club? And she said, shake hands. Question 6. Who is the first person to visit Mrs. Johnstone after the twins are born? And that's the catalogue man. Question 7. What does Mrs. Johnstone tell her other kids has happened to the twin? She said the baby is dead. Question 8. Who says all women like to hold babies, don't they? And that was Mr. Lyons. Question 9. How much money does Mrs. Lyons give to Mrs. Johnstone? And she gives her £50. Question 10. What reason does Mrs. Lyons give for firing Mrs. Johnstone? And her reason was that Mrs. Johnstone's work has deteriorated. Thank you for watching. Please let me know how well you did on this. Bye for now.